everybody, I'm Connor, this is Doug, and welcome to It's the Great Podkin, Charlie Brown, a spooky podcast about all things Halloween. In this episode, we'll offer up our definitive ranking of Halloween candy, from the abomination that is candy corn to the sublime simplicity of the miniature Butterfinger. We'll also deconstruct the rather disturbing lyrics to Monster Mash and take a deep dive into the history of the jack-o'-lantern, which somehow involves conning the devil into buying you booze. We'll wrap things up with the fiery debate on which Halloween villain is scarier, the Headless Horseman or Ichabod Crane.
Connor, we go over this every single week. You know we can't do that podcast. This is the Bethel School District Presents, a podcast about...
Doug, let me stop you, because this week we are doing a Halloween episode. I went out to Roy Elementary earlier this week and visited an art class where the students were painting pumpkins.
My name is Nicole Pierre Williams. I'm the visual arts specialist here at Roy Elementary School. And today we are painting pumpkins just to kind of give the kids the opportunity, if they don't have pumpkins at home already, to decorate and be part of the festivities for October, and then they get to take them home today. So it's a pretty fun activity. They get to use paint and a little bit of glitter. Hopefully it won't be too crazy of a mess at the end. Yeah, it's one of the highlights of the month for them. And again, a really nice project to be able to take home, especially for those kids that wouldn't have the opportunity to hit a pumpkin patch or decorate pumpkins otherwise.
I also had a chance to speak with some first graders about their favorite part of Halloween. Got some pretty interesting answers. Is this your first pumpkin that you've done this year, or are you guys doing it home?
It's my first one we've did, and we're gonna go to a pumpkin patch in a little bit.
What's your favorite Halloween candy?
My favorite Halloween candy is lollipops and cake.
Cake. Don't you remember when your mom would buy big sheet cake and hand it out for Halloween, Connor?
Those were the days. Not only did they get to paint some pumpkins, but they actually got to pick their very own pumpkin, thanks to the very generous donation from Storino Farms.
So if it's too heavy, should you take that pumpkin?
No.
No, thank you.
Did you find a good one?
Yes. It's heavy, but I can hold it.
What's your favorite part about Halloween?
My favorite part about Halloween is candy.
Yeah?
Candy and scary movie.
I want to know what scary movies these first graders are watching, Connor. But speaking of scary movies, we did talk to a couple of folks around the district about what their favorite Halloween movies were.
My name's Nicole Thompson, and I can't pick just one favorite Halloween movie, but here are some of my favorites. Evil Dead, Nightmare on Elm Street, The Mist, Candyman, Oculus, The Conjuring, Carrie.
This is Lori Ginder from Shanaway Middle School. I used to enjoy Halloween movies until I watched the Nightmare on Elm Street series and was traumatized as a child. So now I don't watch any scary movies anymore.
Dawn of the Dead, The Omen, The Exorcist, Candyman, both versions, Bloodsucking Freaks, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Nun.
Hello, I'm Seth Humphrey, the principal at Liberty Middle School, and this year, thinking about Halloween, the first thing that comes into mind is Hocus Pocus 2. All the same old characters. Gotta watch it. Get out there and see it.
Halloween, Reanimator, The Shining, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Evil Dead 2, Creep.
This is Brian from Grounds. My favorite Halloween movie is The Halloween That Almost Wasn't. It's a really corny movie, but it's fun to watch. It's not very scary, and there's a really cool scene with Dracula.
It, Rosemary's Baby, Hereditary, The Babadook, Us, Get Out. And I could go on, but I'll stop for now. Happy Halloween!
It's time for shout-outs.
But before we get to our normal shout-outs, I'd like to give my very own shout-out to the anonymous donor who gave us 2 Seattle Seahawks tickets to give away to you, our listeners. All you have to do is subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, and then send us an email to communications@bethelsd.org with the subject line, I subscribed. In that email, all we want you to do is tell us one thing that you'd like to hear on the pod, and with that, you're entered. We'll pick one entry at random, and they will win 2 Seattle Seahawks tickets to a game this year. That's it. It's that easy.
That's going to be amazing. One lucky listener going to go get to see Matt Hasselback and the rest of the Hawks.
Doug, different era, but still exciting.
All right, well, I might be a little behind on my Seahawks knowledge, but I'm not behind on shout-outs. We have a couple this week that people have sent in. Here they are.
Hi, I'm Lisa Silcox from Elementary Teaching and Learning, and this shout out is for all of our content level leaders in elementary. They are just the best. They give up all of their time, they help out their buildings, and they're always coming up with just fabulous ideas.
Hi, my name is Katie Riley. I'm the secondary ELA TOSA with the Bethel School District, and I want to shout out Teal Saffel, my mentee. I am so grateful for the growth that she has shown even this past year, and she is working hard to do best by her students at Bethel High School.
Hi, my name is Joanna Gianni. I am from Teaching and Learning, and I just have a great shout out for our front office staff at the ESC. It's Josie and Christine. Every time you walk in the door, they smile, they welcome you in. You feel like you're coming home almost. So big shout out to them.
If you'd like to send in your own shout out, just email us communications@bethelsd.org. Connor, I know when I say MLE, you think of the legendary battles between Kobayashi and Joey Chestnut at the annual hot dog eating competition on Coney Island.
I know, those guys are inhuman.
They are, and let's circle back around to that at the end. But we're going to talk about MLE here in Bethel. Now, we're not talking about Major League Eating, we're talking about Multilingual Education. Now, this is the team that was first known as ELL, English Language Learners. They had a name change a few years ago to EL, English Learners, and now they're known as MLE, Multilingual Education, which I think better fits actually what the team does. I got to sit down with them recently and talk about their role in the district and in our classrooms.
My name is Lizette Gotzi. I'm the Assistant Director for Multilingual Education. Here in Bethel, we are serving 1,397 students who encompass up to 76 different languages. Our top 5 languages are Spanish, Russian, Samoan, Punjabi, and Ukrainian. Some of the services that we provide for our district is supporting teachers in classrooms and supporting students as they develop their English language proficiency. We also support and value and really encourage our students to share their culture. We do not believe that any student, even if they don't speak English fully, that they should check their language and their culture at the door. We embrace their culture, we embrace their language. We support our students to make sure that they're welcomed, that they are receiving the needs that they need in the classroom as well as in the community.
That's awesome, and you're not doing it by yourself. You've got 14 teachers and 15 paras that travel throughout the district, helping out classroom teachers as they work with students where English is not their first language. And also on your team, joining us today, is Michelle Lovell and Kathy Harris, who are both teachers on special assignment, or TOSAs. And let's start with you, Kathy. What's your job look like on a day-to-day basis?
This is my first year in this position, so I started back in September. Prior to taking on the role of a TOSA, I was an MLA teacher in the district for 7 years. So I feel like I have a lot more insight into what our MLE teachers are going through. But every day for me has been a new learning experience. We spend a lot of time preparing for presentations, traveling to the buildings to support our teachers. And another thing we do is we work on a family night supporting families, which will take place in the spring.
And Michelle, for a classroom teacher, what kind of MLE supports are they looking for from you and Kathy?
One of the things we do is we support teachers with second language acquisition and what the theories are behind that, so they know how to understand where students are at when they're in the classroom for their proficiency levels. We also are providing WIDA framework support. This is the second year the state of Washington has adopted WIDA framework, so we're going to be working on looking at how our Common Core state standards are supported by WIDA framework and how that just becomes another asset for teachers to use as they're supporting our students in the classroom.
And for these students, learning can be a struggle. I remember a story we did a couple years ago about a student that came to us from Central America, and they lived in a very rural area where they spoke a regional dialect. Then the family moved to Mexico, and the student had to learn Spanish, and then moved up here to Bethel, and they had to learn English alongside learning everything else that you have to learn in school. I love that our MLE team is here to support these students.
This is why we're so excited to be in Bethel. Our students, like you mentioned, sometimes are learning English as their third and fourth language. And so we really want to focus on having a growth mindset and looking at what students come with in their language, in their culture, and in their academics. So where in the past we would think of students who are coming from another country, who are newcomers, who are multilinguals, we needed to support them with remediation we don't want to do that anymore. We want to make sure that we capitalize on what they are already coming with. We have students who are in advanced courses. We have students who are starting to take AP classes. So we want to make sure that we change that picture, that our students need us to hold their hand. They don't. They come with a wealth of knowledge. They come with a wealth of culture, a wealth of language that we just need to use to continue to support them to reach their potential.
That's wonderful. So, Kathy, you were an MLE teacher just last year. Do you have any stories that you can share about students, where they come from, what they've learned?
Actually, just last year, I had a newcomer come in. She had learned English in her previous school, so she knew some conversational English. We put together, working with the classroom teacher, a program where the para that I worked with went into the classroom and supported her and several other students in the classroom to help them access the content that was being taught. And then she would come and see me one-on-one for a little while during the day, and we would work on just some basic conversational English kind of things. But I always enjoyed that time of the day because she was, and well, still is, a very, very bright girl. She knew what they were doing. She just needed to be able to express herself. We were working on money and we were doing something, and all of a sudden she had that light bulb moment and her eyes lit up. So it's just those kind of experiences that really make the job enjoyable.
I mean, just from the look on your face, it's got to be more than enjoyable. This has to be so fulfilling.
It is, yes. When we come into the classroom or they come to see us, most of the time they really do look forward to that support that we're able to provide them so that they can get, as Liz said, they can get what they need from being at school.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that conversational English. That's a lot different from academic English as they start getting into middle and high school. There's phrases they need to know and words they need to know so that they can access that learning. And so that's great that you guys are here doing that. Michelle, for you, what got you into this? This isn't your typical, in the classroom kind of teaching. What interested you in teaching students that are struggling this way?
I was a English teacher for 25 years. Both my parents are from Germany, and I was born in Germany. I am myself, I realized through going through my master's program, a 1.5 immigrant, and not realizing the impact language had on my family because my father had embraced, the American culture when he came. My family were refugees, war refugees, and it became a passion for me because I started realizing that this is something that our educational system had, in the past made it so that there's only one language, only English in the classroom. So we lose our culture, we lose our language, which then makes us lose our identity, which is what pretty much happened for me as I went through my program and started realizing that. And it was a hard process to then start saying, wow, well, how did this happen? And now that's my passion with my students, is to make sure that they don't lose that.
Wow, that's a great story. I love that this is a passion for you, and what a great example of how we used to do business in schools, whereas now we're embracing all those cultures, and that's really what makes America great. Now, Lizeth, you said there are about 1,400 students who are in this program, and your team has about 32 people on it. So how are you working to expand?
One of our favorite things to do is to come to buildings, work with teams within our district to support and share some strategies on how to support multilingual students. We did a summer institute training where we talked about the theory, but the cool thing about the way we do PD is that we embed strategies that the next day teachers, paraeducators, administrators can take to their building and use the next day with our students. And so all of the strategies that we give teachers or paraeducators to utilize in classrooms support everybody, but they're just necessary for our multilingual students to get that access to content.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing about your team today. I've really enjoyed sitting down with all of you. Now, if someone is interested in pursuing a job in this area, one, do we have any jobs open? And two, do they need to be bi or trilingual to apply?
So we definitely do have some positions open. We have quite a few paraeducator positions. They do not need to speak another language in order to support multilingual students, just have the passion for working with students who have multiple cultures, backgrounds, languages, and just have a growth mindset.
And with 76 different languages here in the district, there's a lot of work to be done and a great team doing that work. Lizeth, Michelle, and Kathy, thank you for sitting down with me today.
Thank you.
And that'll do it for this week's show. Connor, if you were to enter one of the major league eating competitions, what would your food be?
I'm going soup, baby. Soup all the way.
That's an interesting pick. Are you going like chicken noodle broth based or any kind of cream based soups? I feel like you're not going to be able to mix these well.
Borscht.
That is a choice, that's for sure. I'm going to go with those peanut butter filled pretzels you get from Costco. Those things are dangerous. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week.